Imagine a story so well rehearsed it has become the world's default setting, the arsenal of democracy. We are told that the United States is the indispensable guardian of global stability, a shield against tyranny and a light for the oppressed. It's a beautiful narrative, a very poetry of Western diplomacy. But today, we set the poetry aside to confront a much colder mathematical reality. As we step inside Washington's air-conditioned corridors, we ask the questions the establishment ignores. Is the US truly sowing democracy or merely expanding the franchise of a corporate empire? Who actually pays the invoice? Politicians signing orders with gold-plated pens? Or the 19-year-old soldiers who return home broken, only to be discarded on the streets they were told they were protecting? Are we witnessing a republic trapped in a tragic loop, or a society willfully blind to its own mechanics of power? We arrive at the defining, clinical question of our time. Is America warholic? Today, we put the slogans away. We look at the declassified files, the veteran reality, and the defense balance sheets. The American empire on the record.
Let's begin with the geography of the American force. How many countries has the United States invaded, coerced, or subjected to regime change since 1945? If we look at the official data from the Congressional Research Service, the United States has launched hundreds of military deployments in the post-war era. But the most revealing data comes from declassified CIA files and political science research. According to research by Boston College political science Lindsay O'Rourke, during the Cold War alone, the United States engaged in 64 covert attempts to overthrow foreign governments. Let's look at the major wars, the conflicts where American boots were firmly on the ground. The Korean War, 1950 to 1953. Over 30,000 Americans dead, and an estimated 2 to 3 million Korean civilians killed. The Vietnam War, 1955 to 1975. A two-decade quagmire that dropped more bombs on Vietnam, Laos, and Cambodia than were used in all of World War II. The Gulf War, 1990 to 1991. The defense of Kuwait. Afghanistan, 2001 to 2021. The longest war in US history, ending in a catastrophic withdrawal. And the return of the very Taliban they went to defeat. Iraq, 2003 to 2011. An invasion predicated in weapons of mass destruction that simply did not exist. According to the Costs of War project at Brown University, the post-9/11 wars alone have directly killed over 432,000 civilians and displaced 38 million people. But military invasion is only one tool. What about economic coercion? Through the weaponization of the US dollar and the Treasury Department, the United States currently maintains active economic sanctions on over 20 countries. From Cuba to Venezuela, from Iran to North Korea, Washington routinely uses economic strangulation to coerce foreign capitals into submission. When you tally the overt invasions, the covert coups, and the economic blockades, the reality is stark. There is virtually no region on this planet that has not been shaped by American coercion.
Thank you for your service. It's a phrase repeated endlessly by American politicians. It's printed on bumper stickers. It's announced at baseball games. But is the US actually doing things for its veterans? Or is this the phrase, just a cheap anesthetic to numb the public's conscience?
Let's look at the human cost of what these young men and women were ordered to do and what they were forced to see. According to the US Department of Housing and Urban Development, HUD, on any given night, approximately 35,000 military veterans are homeless in the United States. They survive in encampments, often self-medicating with fentanyl, heroin, and alcohol to cope with the severe PTSD and moral injury sustained in combat. But the most damning statistic of all comes from the realm of mental health. According to a 2021 study by Brown University, since the War on Terror began in 2001, exactly 7,057 US service members have been killed in combat. But do you know how many active duty personnel and veterans of those exact same conflicts have died by suicide? Over 30,000. Suicide is killing American soldiers at a rate 4 times higher than the enemy. The trauma of modern warfare, the endless deployments, the counterinsurgency tactics, the horrific collateral damage they witness has resulted in an epidemic of mental collapse. The political class sends these 18 and 19-year-olds to the desert, calls them heroes on television, and then abandons them to navigate an underfunded, bureaucratic Veterans Affairs system when they return home broken. Thank you for your service is not a policy. It's a slogan designed to absolve the society that sent them to die.
This brings us to a critical question. Who is ordering these wars? Do the politicians voting to deploy troops actually understand the horror of combat? Or are they simply signing death certificates from the safety of an air-conditioned office?
Let's look at the numbers. They are called chicken hawks, politicians who advocate aggressively for war, but who actively avoided military service themselves. In 1971, during the Vietnam War, nearly 75% of the US Congress was made up of military veterans. They knew what war smelled like. They knew what it cost. Today, that number has plummeted. In the modern US Congress, less than 20% of lawmakers have any military experience whatsoever. And the number of those who have seen actual frontline combat is in the single digits. Well, this begs the question, do these leaders have an insatiable bloodlust? In political science, we do not diagnose leaders with bloodlust. we look at their incentives. It is that they are entirely insulated from the shedding of it. When a lawmaker votes to authorize a strike in Yemen or a surge in Afghanistan, their children are not the ones boarding the transport planes. They view casualties as collateral damage on a spreadsheet. They treat geopolitical strategy like a board game, because the pieces they are moving are the children of the working class.
And we must talk about the money. War is the most profitable business in the world.
In 1961, President Dwight D. Eisenhower warned the world about the military-industrial complex. Today, that complex dictates foreign policy. The top 5 US defense contractors receive hundreds of billions of taxpayer dollars every year. They spend millions lobbying the exact same politicians who vote on war. When missiles are fired, stock prices go up. The leaders do not need bloodlust when the profit margins are this high. The United States claims its ultimate goal is to spread democracy. But let us look at the historical record. Does America actually want independent, free-thinking democracies? Or does it want a subservient corporate empire? History provides the answer. And the answer is deeply cynical. Look at Iran in 1953. Iran had a democratically elected prime minister, Mohammad Mossadegh. What was his crime? He wanted to nationalize Iranian oil to benefit the Iranian people, rather than the British and American corporations. In response, the CIA orchestrated a coup, overthrew the democracy, and installed a brutal dictator, the Shah. Look at Guatemala.
By 1954, under the presidency of Colonel Jacobo Arbenz Guzman, Guatemala was well on its way to becoming the first full-fledged member of the communist bloc on this side of the Atlantic.
In 1954, a democratically elected president, Jacobo Arbenz, instituted land reforms that threatened the profits of the American United Fruit Company. The CIA labeled him a communist, overthrew his government, and plunged the country into decades of civil war. This is the gluttonous nature of global hegemony. The United States does not spread freedom of thought. It spreads freedom of capital. It seeks to create a world modeled in its own image, where foreign markets are cracked open, by force if necessary, so that multinational corporations can extract resources and sell products. If a foreign nation holds democratic elections but elects a leader who refuses to adopt American economic policies or bow down to Washington's consensus, that democracy is immediately labeled a rogue regime. True freedom means the freedom to say no to the empire, and saying no to Washington usually results in a drone strike or a sanction.
How does this continue? Are the citizens of the United States willfully blind? Do they simply narrate history?
If you feel that all the wars seem like the exact same war on a loop, with only the location and the leader changing, you are entirely correct. But the American public is not necessarily blind. They have been systematically anesthetized. In 1973, the United States ended the military draft and created the all-volunteer force. From a political standpoint, this was a masterstroke. Today, less than 1% of the US population serves in the military. Think about what that means. If there is no draft, the middle and the upper classes do not have to worry about their children being sent to a war. The pain of combat is outsourced to a tiny fraction of the population, mostly from the rural and working class backgrounds. Furthermore, the media sanitizes the violence. Wars are presented on American television like video games. We see laser-guided bombs hitting concrete bunkers. We do not see the shredded bodies of children in the rubble. Without the draft and without the visual horror of war on their TV screens, the American public has no immediate personal incentive to stop the military machine. The loop continues because the vast majority of the public never has to pay the physical price of the ticket. We have covered 80 years of history briefly. We have looked at the data, the coups, and the homeless veterans, and the defense contractors. So we arrive at the final question. Is America a waraholic country? To be an alcoholic is to be addicted to a substance that is destroying your body because you cannot function without it. If we apply that definition to geopolitics, the answer is an objective, undeniable yes. The economy of the United States is structurally addicted to defense spending. Its global hegemony is addicted to military bases. Its politicians are addicted to the lobbying money of weapons manufacturers. It is an empire that cannot stop fighting because peace offers zero profit. But the tragedy of this addiction is that the empire itself does not suffer the hangover. The hangover is felt by the 35,000 homeless veterans sleeping on the streets of Los Angeles. The hangover is felt by the widows in Baghdad, the orphans in Kabul, and the shattered democracies of Latin America. The leaders sitting with their feet on their desks in Washington will eventually retire. They will write memoirs. They will sit on corporate boards. They will call for the next war, safely insulated from its consequences. But the soldiers quite never return home.